It's now my pleasure to introduce the Collaborative Design Council and the award ceremony segment of the online summit. So the Design Council, if you're not aware what it is an 18-member national body of volunteers from all around the country convened to advise Transition US and to carry forward the national work of this movement in a decentralized, grassroots connected context. So it represents real resilience for Transition US, because now, rather than relying exclusively on a small staffed nonprofit to carry forward the national level organizing work of transition, there's a growing connected community of leaders in this movement who are coming together to really hold the broader transition. It's a similar phenomenon actually to something happening globally. Over a decade ago, Transition Network formed to steward the global transition movement. And over time, national hubs rose up and began meeting and working together to carry forward the global project of transition. And the NGO Transition Network still exists and does amazing work, but increasingly they're supported and being sort of organized out of a job by the hubs themselves, who are coming together, acting in a decentralized way to support the global transition. So here in the US, the Collaborative Design Council is beginning to cultivate a similar role, where if Transition US had to close its doors tomorrow, which we don't, hopefully, there would still be a connected group of movement leaders to carry the flame forward. And so the Design Council has played a significant role, for example, in organizing our first ever Transition National Gathering, which took place in the Twin Cities last summer. They've supported in growing our national working groups, like the Social Justice Working Group that Elisa and Theo just told you about. And they will now be presenting transition awards to inspiring transitioners from around the movement. So here to present our first award it's Laura, right? Give me a nod or a thumbs up if I'm right. I hope it is. I believe I'm passing the mic now to Laura Philon, a great friend in Wilmington, Delaware. So Laura, take it away.
Hi everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In 1 minute. The first award is for the Community Impact Award, which honors a transition initiative that's made a big difference in local community through leaderful grassroots efforts. This year, the award goes to Transition Town Media of Media, PA. Runners-up were Transition Longfellow in Minneapolis and Wilmington in Transition in Delaware. Transition Town Media received 2 nominations. In the interest of time, I'll read one. One of them said, "It's been one of the most steady and successful transition initiatives in the country since its inception in 2009. They have a full calendar of events," which is true, over a dozen working groups, and several large projects that they coordinate, including the Media Free Store, Solarize Greater Media, and the Media Time Bank. TTM's members are also very active in the wider movement, serving as representatives in the Transition US Collaborative Design Council, holding leadership positions in the national working groups, participating in the Mid-Atlantic States Transitioners Regional Hub, and sharing their experience through presentations at the national gatherings and with their neighbors. Their creativity and commitment should be an inspiration to all of us. I know we here in Wilmington greatly admire and appreciate you. So accepting on behalf of Transition Town Media, I'm told we have Shari Stuber, awesome president of Transition Town Media, and Dawn Wesley, the steering liaison for their very successful Free Store. Take it away.
Thank you, Laura. I'm Dawn Wesley. I'm deeply honored to accept this award on behalf of Transition Town Media. Our last 9 years have been an exciting ride with highs, lows, breakthroughs, disappointments, challenges, lessons learned. What has sustained us through it all is our dedication to the work of transition and the joy and solidarity we find in the community we've created. We place importance on the care and well-being and of each other and ourselves. We've also tried to stretch ourselves and take risks, like starting a time bank, running a Solarize project, and opening a free store. Some ideas have worked great and others didn't, but delivered useful lessons. Partnering with local organizations and the municipal government has earned us their trust and respect and increased our visibility and impact with recent endeavors like a curbside compost program and an open streets festival. Our success is due to the collective genius, hard work, and dedication of our members and all of our colleagues and supporters in the media area, and to our sister initiatives in the Mid-Atlantic region, Wilmington, Delaware, Howard County, Maryland, Glassboro, New Jersey, and in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, State College, and the soon-to-be official Phoenixville. You have all inspired us and supported us, shared our achievements, and helped us through our challenges. We thank you for your ongoing partnership.
This is Shari Stuber with Transition Town Media. We kept the speech short because in the spirit of Transition Towns not asking for permission, especially when we're not likely to get it if we ask, we'd like to propose a new award, the Regenerative Mycelia Award, to go to the folks who have done such an amazing job of bringing new energy and focus to the work of transition in the U.S., revitalizing communication among transition initiatives, introducing us to new skills and organizational methods, and connecting us all through the national gatherings, the Collaborative Design Council, and the network and national network calls. Of course, this nomination goes to the dynamic trio, Marissa Momartz, Nils Paulson, and Dawn Hall. Anybody, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Congratulations, Marissa, Nils, and Dawn. Back to you.
So I think, Shari, you're actually up next to introduce our Grassroots Leadership Award, if you're ready.
That's right, sorry, lost track here. So, I'm Shari Stuber from Transition Town Media, and I'm very pleased to be presenting the Grassroots Leadership Award to Leslie MacKenzie of Transition Twin Cities and Transition Longfellow, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. The Grassroots Leadership Award honors a local and regional transition leader who embodies the best qualities of transition leadership. I have to summarize what her nomination said to squeeze it all into a minute, but here goes. She's the inspired, dedicated leader responsible for uniting more than a half dozen local transition initiatives in the Twin Cities, even writing and receiving a grant to start and support them, making the Twin Cities a vibrant center for transition. She's a tireless worker for transition, instrumental in making the first national gathering of the Transition US movement a big success last year. She's committed to grappling with the big issues and rolling up her sleeves to do the work necessary to make real change happen. A remarkable visionary, action-oriented leader, stalwart promoter of transition, hands down the most effective voice for transition in the Twin Cities region. She sets a positive example for transition leaders everywhere to follow. And I would add that she also plays a strong role nationally as a member of the U.S. Collaborative Design Council and the Regional Hubs Group. Leslie's a real mama bear for transition at all levels. Runners up for the, am I supposed to read the runners up? Runners up for this award include myself, Sylvia Holmes of Transition Pasadena, California, and Margot Dusterhouse of Transition Howard County, Maryland. Congratulations, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for this award. And thank you to Richard Heinberg for being the first person to tell me a hard truth, while also helping me see a way forward with Transition Towns. And thank you to the people who nominated me, because they have been right here along with me doing the work all this time. I haven't done anything on my own. There were always people working with me, and that's what makes it transition. And thanks to Rob Hopkins and the folks at the International Network who started this whole thing. What a gift they provided to all of us so that we could do and be wherever we are with whatever resources we have. We put things out there in the community. We don't really know what's gonna come out of it, but something always does magically come out of it. Someone talks to their neighbors or gets rid of a car or makes signs up for solar or changes the way he does business, and lots of people start growing food. That's one of the things we started to do. So who knows how far this ripple will travel, but let's just try it and see. That's really our motto here.
Love you, Leslie.
Thanks.
All right. So yeah, congratulations to everybody who's received an award so far. As you probably noticed, we are running a little behind. You know, in the spirit of transition, this is a great experiment here having this National Online Summit. So I hope you can just roll with us on this. And I'm here to introduce the next award, which is our Building Bridges to Justice Award. And this award honors an outstanding movement leader, project, initiative, organization, or collaboration between groups for their work bridging community resilience and social justice. And we had a few great runners-up for this award. We have the Transition US Social Justice Working Group that you recently heard from, and also the Alliance for Sustainability based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But we chose as the winner of the award this year to be Bystrova of the Inner Resilience Network. And I'm just going to read a little something from Jules' nomination before turning it over to her. Acting purely out of her own deep commitment to justice and inclusion, Jewel has almost single-handedly built important bridges between the transition towns movement and indigenous communities throughout the U.S. She worked for months to bring Standing Rock elders Phyllis Young and Pearl Means to the first Transition US National Gathering to provide a keynote talk and lead a groundbreaking conversation on decolonizing transition. More recently, she made a trip to the Pine Ridge Reservation to explore the possibility of transitioners helping out with a few different permaculture projects there in 2019. In addition to co-facilitating the Inner Resilience Network and serving on Transition US's Collaborative Design Council, Jewel is an active participant in our National Social Justice Working Group. So I believe Jewel is still there at the Transition US watch party, and I will turn it over to her. Congratulations, Jewel.
Hi, thank you. Wow, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your kind attention on this and the recognition. But I must say that I cannot accept this award for myself. I really can't. But I will accept it for our future and for all of us who are working on the front lines of social justice. I accept it for those of us who are envisioning ways to work together as a diverse population with different needs and different strengths. I'm imagining more individuals and communities of transition-minded people doing the real work, the hard, messy work of understanding privilege and learning the deep history from the side of those that are oppressed, those that made privilege possible. Those who understand the challenges in uncovering the assumptions that we live with and the colonized mindset that we know we still have much to do to address the racial, economic, and cultural disparity that we see. We must not only be good stewards of the earth, but good allies of each other and allies with those who were the first stewards. This takes courage to face the historical trauma in healing ways and create together a new story. We all have a personal story, that which makes us who we are, and social justice must include the healing of our own roots if we are to form authentic relationships with those outside our circles. I encourage all of us to reach outside our comfort zones to do this work. Why? The answer is simple. We cannot do this work without all of us. This work looks different in each community, and we have a lot to learn from each other and enjoy. So many tools and stories. Social justice should be a priority, not just because it is morally right, but also because we simply won't succeed without it. I also accept this award for the past and the present who are working diligently, the invisible heroes who are fighting pipelines, many of whom I met at Standing Rock, and who are continuing to this day to say no to the toxic agendas of the fossil fuel economy. And the ordinary people everywhere rising to extraordinary efforts to build new and renewed ways of living together on this beautiful planet in an equitable and healing way. Thank you for your kind attention on my very little part in this. Let us continue to work together for the time in the future that I am passing this award on to. Thank you.
All right. And we're going next to Transition Pasadena and Sylvia Holmes to introduce our next award. I think you're good to go, Sylvia.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm presenting the Walking the Talk Award. The description is, this award will honor an individual or group who has made a significant effort to align their lifestyles with transition values. The award winner is Peter Kalmus of Transition Pasadena. Peter truly lives an extremely low carbon lifestyle and has written a book about this. In spite of living in a metropolis, Peter does not fly. He is a climate scientist who understands very well the impact of flying being the worst contributor to climate crisis. He commutes by bike, has a grease-fueled car named Maybe, raises food, gleans dumpster food, cans excess produce, raises chickens and 2 sons. He meditates daily and hosts a weekly meditation. He speaks freely about his convictions, and his book, Being the Change, Live Well, and Spark a Climate Revolution, has gone into a second printing. All the book profits go to Citizens Climate Lobby. Peter says he's much happier living with his low energy lifestyle. And here's Peter.
Hey, Transition US. Thank you. It's really, you guys are so amazing, and the work that you're doing is so important. So thank you. And this, I couldn't have done this without Transition Pasadena. I couldn't have written the book. I couldn't have explored how to live with less fossil fuel the way that I did. They were supporting me for years, and I learned so much from them. It's interesting that transition started because of peak oil. Now it's pretty clear that climate breakdown is the real emergency that we're facing. So I urge transition to always, don't ever let go of that part of who you are. Transition means transition away from fossil fuel. So the main reason that I had to reduce my own emissions is because I just hate burning this stuff. As a climate scientist, I'm hyper aware of the impacts of burning that stuff. Science is a way for uncovering the truth. It also provides means for looking into the future, like in ways that we can't do otherwise. And what I see is really terrifying. So it just feels really yucky for me to burn this stuff. And that's the main reason that I've reduced. The second reason I've reduced is to shift the culture. So CO2 is an interesting kind of pollution. It accumulates and stays in the air for thousands of years. And it's also interesting because it's invisible and you can't smell it. And it's all around us. It's embodied in everything that we see when we fly, when we drive. It's completely around our lives, but the fossil fuel system hides it away. There's no warning label on airplane tickets. When you fill up your car, you don't see like how much is actually going in there. So we need people to actually vote through their actions to shift the culture. We need leaders like you guys. A lot of environmentalists are saying that it's a mistake maybe to focus on individual action, but I see that as a false dichotomy now. Collective action enables individual action by shifting the system, and individual action enables collective action by shifting the culture. We can't have collective action, carbon fees and dividends, if people aren't voting for that. So we have to raise the awareness of the public by voting with our actions. And so that's, I think those are the two reasons I do this, I guess. So thanks.
Okay, so we're going over to Nina next for our Municipality in Transition Award.
Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. I'm calling in from Burlington, Vermont, and I'm presenting the Municipality in Transition Award today. So this award honors an effective collaboration between a local government and the Transition Initiative. The runners-up were Transition Sarasota and Sarasota County Government in Sarasota, Florida, Transition Town Media and the Media Borough in Pennsylvania, and Transition Laguna Beach and the City of Laguna Beach in California. And the winner is Local 2020, working with the town of Port Townsend, Washington. Yay. So one of the nominations for this collaboration stated that Local 2020 is building meaningful bridges to government and other local institutions. They've partnered actively with their local city and county government, Port Authority, Public Utilities District, Transit Advisory Board, and Junior College. And they also have a regular column in their local paper, and they've partnered very prolifically and are influencing local climate policy. Accepting the award are Cindy J. from Local 2020, and Judy Alexander and Deborah Stinson on behalf of Port Townsend.
All right.
Hi, I'm Judy Alexander, and Cindy and Deb are not able to be here, so I'm going to be speaking on their behalf as well. Thank you so much for this award. It's really quite an honor to be recognized for the Municipality in Transition Award. It is probably not unrelated that Deborah Stinson, as one of the founders of Local 2020 back in 2006, later on ran for city council and is currently our mayor. So she has known the importance of public and private partnerships from both sides of the equation. Deb is convinced that things work best when both public and private groups approach the relationship in the spirit of partnership. So key to such success is keeping an eye on the jointly desired outcomes without getting too strident or attached about how to get there. One example of our partnering approach that we cut our teeth on involved reaching out to our county Department of Emergency Management director back in 2007 by inviting him over to my house for lunch. We proposed a partnership between Local 2020 and our DEM staff, suggesting that we would motivate neighborhoods to self-organize ahead of the unexpected disasters if we could get enough emergency management staff supporting us to help get neighborhood organizers motivated to take action. The director admittedly did not really get what we were proposing, but he liked the company and maybe the lunch enough to say yes. Years later, we frequently say, little did I know what we'd end up with was over 100 really cool neighborhoods. Next, in 2013, we agreed with the Department of Emergency Management to start an annual all-county picnic, a summer celebration and educational forum to ignite all ages in getting prepared, with a chance to sign up many new neighborhood organizers each summer. And then all of this all-county picnic was free and usually drawing over 1,000 participants to enjoy music, free corn on the cob, kids activities, and a plethora of prepared informational booths. Elected officials are always present too, giving us the needed common ground for the public-private partnerships to continue to thrive in our future. Thanks so much, very much for the award.
Yay. All right, and we're going over to Shaktari Baloo next for our Transition Ally Award.
Yay, get me off there.
Oh, good work, Carolyne. I didn't know what you were pulling.
Hi, everybody. I'll try to be really quick. As one of the original U.S. Transition Town trainers and a PDC instructor, this award just thrills me to my core. It's the Transition Ally Award. It honors an individual, project, organization, or movement that has significantly contributed or supported community resilience,
Looking up at the ceiling.
building efforts in the USA. I can hear a lot of talking behind me. I'm hoping you can hear me. Appropriately, our winner celebrates the heart and soul of transition, the permaculture movement. So what is permaculture? A lot of you know, and some might not. Perhaps the simplest description is a design methodology that can be applied to anything that works with nature. So if we think about that for a moment, a design methodology that works with the complex, interdependent, ever-changing whole systems that we call nature. The significance of that is really huge. Instead of coming from a place of domination and control, permaculture design seeks to design everything in a way that honors and encourages a balanced, thriving life on this planet. And inspired by permaculture, the transition movement seeks to do the same. But how do you award a movement? Well, our search for an individual who epitomizes that movement led us to David Holmgren, one of the co-originators of the modern permaculture concept, along with Bill Mollison. Thank you, David Holmgren, for receiving this award. Excuse my dog, touch. For receiving this award on behalf of the permaculture movement. Also nominated was the Fellowship for Intentional Community, an organization that we love and with whom we've collaborated regularly. Finally, I'll let David's own words reflect who we choose to be in this auspicious moment of human history. Let us act as if we are part of nature's striving for the next evolutionary way to creatively respond to the recurring cycles of energy ascent and descent that characterizes human history and the more ancient history of Gaia, the living planet. Imagine that our descendants and our ancestors are watching us. So with great joy, we bring you David Holmgren.
Thank you. And it is a great honor to be able to be joining this conference to just receive this award on behalf of the permaculture movement, which is now 40 years old after the publication of Permaculture 1 in 1978 and the tireless efforts in the following decade of Bill Mollison to spread those ideas and turn permaculture into a movement. Of course, permaculture is incredibly diverse as a concept in its applications and its expressions around the world. And even within the US, and what I know of permaculture, there's a huge diversity there. Of course, I have a continuing small part in that and do my bit at a local level, but also trying to deepen that framework. And of course, that connection to transition is very strong. And I think it feels a little bit to me, without being paternalistic about that, of being to some extent the parent movement. It was for several years, Rob Hopkins, as a permaculture teacher in Ireland, was pestering me to come to Ireland following the publication of my book, Permaculture Principles and Pathways Beyond Sustainability. And I did that as part of a 6-month teaching and study tour and came to a conference and met, amongst other people, Richard Heinberg. And that conference in Little Kinsale in Ireland was really, I suppose, the conception point for transition, which of course took off when Rob moved to Totnes and all of that change began. So although transition, of course, has incredibly diverse sources itself, including people who are not at all familiar with permaculture, it is true that it was like an offshoot or a child of the permaculture movement. And I think in the same way that parents see children grow up and become their own thing and have power, even power and expression exceeding that of the previous generation, that transition has had that expression, and also the development where parents need to have adult relationships to their offspring. So, and to recognise challenges and new ideas and things that we didn't think of. Of course, to say that might be being paternalistic is is perhaps obvious. Transition has also been a huge feedback into permaculture in strengthening what permaculture activists call the people side of permaculture, the care of people alongside the care of earth. And I think there's a huge rise of interest and expression in how we work at that scale, not just with the land, but with each other. There's also, I think, a learning in that a lot of permaculture design, especially in the early decades, was about what developers call, green slate, green fields site design, starting from scratch. But in fact, everywhere has a history. We carry our baggage with us. And so transition in working with people where they are, in communities where they are, is dealing with those existing realities. And so those influences have come back in my latest work in retro suburbia about retrofitting the built, the biological and the behavioural fields of the household economy. And so it is also drawing on that. And it's interesting that I am in Geelong here in Victoria, some distance from our own home, giving a presentation yesterday to 80 people in Transition South Barwon, an incredible local group that's doing things in one of our larger regional cities. And there's further meetings in that happening today. So this connection between permaculture and transition is very intimate in this country as well. So thank you for the award and congratulations for all the work I see and hear about transition in the United States.
Thank you for all that you do and for sharing part of your Sunday morning in Australia with us.
Thank you, you're welcome.
So next we're going to go to Marissa Momartz for our 7th and final award.
Thank you, Don. Well, that is a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce the first recipient of our Living Legacy Award, which honors an individual or group that has made a significant and lasting contribution to the national transition movement here in the U.S. And that person is Carolyne Stayton. Carolyne is such a humble team player. She hates it when I jokingly refer to her as my boss, though she technically is. Carolyne has served as the Executive Director of Transition US since its inception 10 years ago. Initially taking this on as a short-term, temporary position, she has successfully guided the organization with remarkable skill, selfless commitment, and relentless persistence through its often tumultuous startup phase to increasingly profound levels of engagement, service, and impact. It is not too much to say that without Carolyne, our transition movement in the US would not be as interconnected, cohesive, and robust as it is today. Her positive influence will be felt both nationally and internationally for a long time to come. Over to Carolyne.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a lovely team in this beautiful permaculture classroom. So yeah, it's been a remarkable 10 years. It started off with kind of a Wild West kind of craziness. People that weren't affiliated with transition at all were buying up URLs and inviting real transition people to participate in their thing, but they weren't doing a thing. And others were trying to corral transition for the benefit of their business that wasn't connected either. It was very wacky. So now we're definitely we've gone through that phase. We're in a deepening phase, a deepening process, and transition's really matured a great deal, as evidenced by everyone on this summit today and all the awards and the collaborative nature of it all. I've had the very good fortune to meet talented individuals from around the world, from many countries: Israel, Brazil, Japan, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Italy, Croatia, Hungary, the Philippines, and many more. And it looks different. Transition, as we know, looks different in different places across the country, and that's very different around the world. Different governments are interacting with it in different ways. And we're all doing this work out of a deep dedication, certainly not to get rich and not for notoriety, although some people have achieved some notoriety from it. And we're doing this work because the future is in our hands, and we are so passionate about making a future that's livable. I look forward to the unfolding journey, and I really look forward to deepening and deepening my relationships with all of you and with the international community as well, and to effectively increasing our impact. And I think we're on the cusp of doing a lot more of that. So I look forward to the next 10 years with all of you. So thank you so much. And now I have the good honor of this Living Legacy Award honored me right now. And I also wanted to take the time to honor the founders of the transition movement in the US, Pamela Gray and Raven Gray. And they're both ex-board members of the US. And it was through their dedication in the early days, they helped to grow the nonprofit, get funding, and really build the organization, despite of all the crazy Wild Westness that I mentioned earlier. I wanted to say, I'm going to introduce them both, and then we'll pass to Pamela and pass to Raven. Pamela is one of the smartest people I've ever met. She has a PhD in mathematics from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, a master's of holistic science at Schumacher, and she started and managed a number of software companies. Did I mention, yes, that you're a mathematician? Which is amazing. She was a board member of Transition Network as well as Transition US. And since leaving the service of Transition US as a board member, she's been producing a blog and preparing a series of ebooks on the physics of the human body and its application in medical practice, both allopathic and complementary. And I'm going to also introduce Raven, and we'll pass to Pamela. So Raven was a pioneer of the Transition Towns movement in the UK. She set up the world's second transition initiative in the UK after Totnes. She's a writer, a permaculture and nature awareness educator, an activist with a strong commitment to environmental, social, and economic sustainability. When I met Raven, she was taking her BA degree at New College, Culture, Ecology, and Sustainable Community. And she has an MSc in Holistic Science, Ecological Education from Schumacher College in the UK. Both dedicated, remarkable women
It is my great pleasure to give both of you, or each of you, the Living Legacy Award.
Wait for a second. Thank you. It's still not up there. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's just dark, I think, because of the light. Anyway, thank you all of the people who have been listening to these presentations today and the people in the room. Thank you very much for the opportunity to see how Transition US has grown over the last 10 years. I am flabbergasted, I have to say. To give you a little bit of background, in 2006, I was still living in the UK, close to Totnes, and I was on the Transition Network board, where they wanted a business person on board at the time, which is why I was invited on. I saw the emergence of transition initiatives all around the world, and Transition Network started to encourage the formation of regional and national hubs to try to support some of these groups, because frankly, Transition Network itself was overloaded and couldn't possibly handle all of the questions and help that was required. Although transition initiatives were appearing in the US, it seemed that a national hub could be useful. In 2007, where Raven and I were still in the UK, we started to build a database of people and groups that were here in the US that looked as though they could work with a national hub. We weren't sure if they would or not. Some of them were eager, some of them were not. But we built the database, and then later that year, at the end of 2007, if you can just keep the dates in your head, we moved to the US late that year. In 2008, we really started the work of forming the group, Transition US itself. By mid-2008, we had raised substantial initial funding. That was very lucky. We had leased and furnished an office. We'd built a website. We had hired an executive director. And we had run the first of the transition training events, which was a sellout. Once the organization was at what I thought was a fairly solid and stable state, I withdrew. I had really felt I had done my duty and my job, and it was up to other people. I handed over to Raven as the founding president of Transition US, and to Carolyne Stayton, who was probably the best hire we could ever have made, and who has been here ever since, doing what you all know is a fantastic job. So I want to thank everybody that's made Transition US such a success, and I thank you for recognizing my very early contribution. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today and very grateful to be the recipient of this award. As the founding president of Transition US, I was there at the beginning, at the birth of Transition US in 2007 with Pamela, who at the time was on the board of the Transition Network. We both worked our socks off and extremely hard to get Transition US, the organization, off the ground, and it's really delightful and fantastic to see that Transition US is thriving 10 years later. While I've not been active in Transition US for the last few years, in my heart, I've never left the front lines of the transition movement. The vision of transition runs in my blood, and my life is dedicated now and always to co-creating a more just, sacred, and sustainable world. I'd like to just briefly thank some of the people who enabled me to give birth to Transition US. First of all, to Rob Hopkins and the Transition Network team in the UK. And then Julian Darley and Celine Rich, who often maybe weren't thought of, but they founded the Post-Carbon Institute. And when me and Pamela first moved here from the UK, they were absolutely invaluable partners for helping us get the organization off the ground. All of my permaculture teachers on both sides of the Atlantic, you know who you are, too numerous to mention. Everybody at the New College of California, where I met Richard Heinberg and Carolyne Stayton many years ago, and Schumacher College, where David Fleming, the late David Fleming, and Satish Kumar and a number of other luminaries who were very influential in my life. And there's so many mentors and people that I've stood on the shoulders of, some of them in the ancestor realm, some of them here now. And two of the most influential were by far my father, who was a physicist and a climate scientist, he's now deceased, and my mother, who you just met, Pamela Gray, also a physicist, who stands beside me now. I could not have done any of this work in any of my life without Pamela beside me. And finally, I'd like to thank everybody who's here in Transition US in the organization, at the board, Cher Miller, Trayton Heckman, who was there, Richard Heinberg, who was former board member, they were there in the early days, and everybody in the organization, some who I haven't met, Mills I just met, and Carolyne Stayton, who has been amazing, very grateful for her. And all of you out there working for transition and in permaculture across the nation and across the world. I'm so grateful that you're all here. The work that you're doing has never been more important than now. And I'm so glad that we're all in this together and that I'm part of this historic movement for radical and revolutionary change. Thank you so much.
Yeah.